Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I'm Tahir Dhindsa and you're watching SDTV. If we say that Germany is the pivotal state in Europe, that would not be wrong. Past two wars and the development and the way they have each time come back after major disasters like the World War, it's amazing. That tells a great story of resilience of the people and how they are focused on developing themselves after a disaster. It's a story. Right now, if I say Germany is the country that is pulling the Europe in one way, it's the locomotive. And obviously, it's not insulated from the changing world, and they are feeling the heat of it. But that's beyond the scope of today's discussion. With Pakistan, we have a relationship. German-Pakistan relations are profound in many ways, as far as the technology, learning technologies, and developing other things. And the Germans are also very keen on that, and Pakistanis are also very keen on. That's a good relationship that can function in something if given its due place in overall scenario. We have today with us a counselor and head of development, German embassy in Pakistan, Mirjam, and very warm welcome. And I would leave your surname to be said by you.
Thank you so much. My name is Mirjam Buchenbender-Buchholz, and no issue if you refrain from pronouncing that.
Yeah, thank you very much. Please say something on this very important relationship between two sovereign countries, although at a different scale, but overall they are facing the brunt of changing world.
That is very true. I think it's a very interesting time to be here. It's a crucial time. I think both in Europe and in Pakistan, a lot is happening. So we're lucky to be alive in those times and to be here in Islamabad. I think especially the last weeks have shown how what an important place Islamabad is. So I'm very happy. Our countries have a long history together, as you mentioned, and not just in the area of technology or economic development, but I only learned about Iqbal after arriving here and his history in Germany. I think in Munich there is a statue of him. So, we took a lot from Pakistan also in terms of culture that is valuable to us now in Germany. In terms of development cooperation, we do also have a very long lasting partnership that goes back to 1961. We have been partnering together in that since then. We have committed almost nearly 4 billion euros in development funds to Pakistan. And currently our focus of our cooperation lies on 3 areas, which is climate and energy as one of the crucial challenges this country faces, and I think we will talk about this more. Sustainable economic development and skills as a second area of focus, and adaptive social protection as a third focus. Our cooperation is implemented by our implementing partners, that is GIZ and KfW, which I feel most Pakistanis are familiar with. They implement the cooperation that comes from BMZ, from the German government. And they work both on policy advice, supporting political processes, advising institutions on the ground, but also implementation on the ground with our partners from the national and the regional provincial level. The goal is quite clear, I think. We want to support a more resilient and successful country that creates opportunity for its people. And that's why we are here.
Right. Thank you very much for this detailed description before the intro. And, energy is very important now, as everywhere these wars are being fought for energy and everything. I remember after the Fukushima incident, Germany was the first country that rolled back its nuclear power stations and all that. Now, this fossil fuel says it's a slow death and it's also hurting, but energy is scarce as well, again, because of the fossil fuel. It's a very tricky situation. And you don't want to have it and you want to have it. You don't know what you need to do. And at policy level, it's very tricky. What is the situation now, especially if you think that a model is to be created which might be replicated elsewhere?
So in terms of climate change and the challenges we're facing with it?
Yeah, and energy.
And
because I personally understand, correct me, climate change and energy are two sides of the same coin, head and tail.
Actually, I mean, I absolutely agree, but I would even extend that. So I would say when we look both at Germany or Pakistan, and we talk about climate change and the challenges it poses, it is fair to say this is not an issue of one sector. It cuts across all sectors, from energy, but also including infrastructure, agriculture, social protection. So really, I think climate change is an overarching issue that we're dealing in both countries with. And I think specifically with regard to Pakistan and our cooperation, it is important to stress this is not just a challenge. It is not just about disasters, but it's also about opportunities, about social stability and competitiveness. So I think we want to frame also our cooperation in this kind of, from this perspective, both in terms of how we view it in Germany, but also how we're approaching our work here. And generally, when we talk about our approach to cooperation here, we always take a policy approach. So we support policy making at the same time as a more practical pilot-based approach to see that things are actually working. And I think both between Germany and Pakistan, we face similar challenges, and there are areas where we can work together quite closely and where we really create win-win situations. You mentioned energy. I think so we have a very strong portfolio in the energy sector, which cuts really across all the different aspects, from grids to battery solutions to advising on policy. So we have a holistic approach. And but let me just give you one example, for instance, that of energy efficiency, which I think is one of the biggest untapped business opportunities also in Pakistan. And we work on that also. On the one hand, we work on that by supporting regulation and codes. So I think with our support, the first energy conservation building code was created and approved 2024 by the government. And now we're supporting authorities to implement that. But at the same time, with pilots in different provinces, we showcase how energy efficient buildings are viable and actually financially beneficial, so that jobs can be created and basically sustainable growth supported. So I think this is one area where we can see there is a lot to offer from our side. We German businesses are quite strong on that, but also for Pakistan, it's a huge challenge.
Yeah.
And together, so I think we're all about creating these kind of win-win situations,
right.
And I think the energy sector is a very good example for that.
Hydrocarbons are, mainly responsible, and in Pakistan, automobile is the main culprit, especially the diesel engines and all. And if say point out one thing in Germany which they produce are their automobiles, especially the luxury one, the Benz and the Audis and other. So do you think there should be some cooperation on technical grounds for energy efficiency of the hydrocarbon engines?
You mean in terms of vehicles, automobiles? So that's a tricky one, because I'm actually not quite sure how many of the German cars are exported to Pakistan.
For other engines as well.
I do know there is cooperation, for instance, via one of our projects on supporting e-motorbikes here in Pakistan, which I think is actually almost more relevant, because I don't know how many people drive cars and how many people drive scooters here, right?
So many.
So supporting the shift towards e-vehicles or e-scooters, I think is quite essential. And I know that there will be a project upcoming, not in our bilateral portfolio as part of German cooperation here, that supports the scale up of e-scooters. We have other projects, or also the development partners landscape, I think, is quite involved in clean air activities, which involve looking at transportation also. So I think there is quite a significant area that we work on together. With regard to cars, I'm not quite sure. Maybe that is something to look into.
Right.
But I don't also think there are many cars being produced in Pakistan. So maybe that's not the most efficient lever to improve air quality and reduce pollution. Yeah.
Right. Right. And ultimately, everything comes to the people. And it can be a very good sort of a cooperation between the two countries, because population seems to be dwindling in general. It's collapsing, if it's a too strong a word. I don't want to use the word collapsing, but it's dwindling and they need more workers from. In Pakistan, we have a youth bulge, and the youngsters are very talented and they're very intelligent. And the dilemma is that because of the economic conditions, many of them cannot complete their education or get themselves polished for education and all that. So do you think there should be some good plan for cooperation on people to people and skill set and all that?
Well, actually, skills is a huge area of cooperation, and actually a long-lasting cooperation. We've been involved in that sector for a very long time. And I do think what you mentioned is crucial. Germany and Pakistan, we are facing, on the one hand, quite different challenges. You have a rapid population growth, a little bit of an unstable economy, very high climate vulnerability. Germany, as you said, aging population, demographic change, but we are also faced with a need to shift to a climate neutral economy, and also our export-led economic model is a little bit under pressure. So we're both countries that are having quite different challenges, but I think the area you mentioned is, again, a very good example of how important it is to cooperate, and that this is really not about us coming here and giving some money and feeling good about it, but really having some interest that cooperation can help us achieve at the same time as Pakistan. And I think the skills sector is crucial. So I mentioned that we have been involved in that for a long time. I think there are two elements to what you said. On the one hand, Pakistan is a key trading partner under GSP Plus, and so it's an important partner to Europe in trading. But for companies to export successfully, they also need to meet specific requirements on labor and safety, on sustainability. So in order to facilitate that, German corporation does a lot of trainings, advisory on how to meet these requirements to actually make companies here fit for the European market. So I think this is one element, and the other one is actual training and skills. So as I said, we've been involved in the TVET sector for a very long time. And increasingly, I think we find that having people trained to an international standard here would also benefit us. As you said, we have an aging population, but we also have a huge shortage in skills. And we do focus on this as part of some of our projects to find ways to facilitate. So first of all, to work with the partners here, NAFTAC and so on and so forth, to ensure that the qualifications meet international requirements. That's the one thing. And on the other hand, to better advise people who are interested in labor mobility, so they have all the information on the table, what is required and needed. And I think there's room for, that's something I think we're working on. And if that's successful, that can be a great win-win for both our countries.
Right. So let's come to on the lighter side, because we have talked serious things a bit. Let's give some time to because I understand that only sustainable and long-lasting relationship among the countries or among anyone is the social one. The social bonds, if they are developed, they remain. They're very spontaneous and all that. And you, at the start of this conversation, you mentioned Iqbal, and he was a very profound reader of Friedrich Nietzsche and all that. And there used to be a scholar, Dr. Anne-Marie Schmel, here, and she would say that the Marde-Momen of Iqbal and the Superman of Nietzsche are quite close. if not the same. So there is then once again we come to the geography. They say that because of the first climate change about 13,000-14,000 years ago, the ridge was submerged between Asia and Europe, and the Aryans migrated to Germany from the north of the Caspian Sea, and the Aryans migrated to the subcontinent here in India and Pakistan and all. So there's a racial affinity, and you say it goes deep down, very. I mean, on that account, not on the negative. I'm not talking about on the negative, on the positive side, similar. What do you think? What cultural relationships can be, can be enjoyed and should be built here, other than this economic and development? Because that is a definite part of development and cooperation.
Absolutely, I agree. And I mean, I think regardless of the kind of historic ethnic relations, it is good to have cultural ties everywhere, you know? And so I think there is some good examples of how this cultural exchange is taking place. You know, I think our Goethe institutes, their area, are institutions that are also trying to kind of inform a little bit and spread a little bit of what is dear to us in terms of culture. There are other institutions. And I must be very honest with you, I think there is not enough of this from Pakistan in Germany. So when you ask Germans about Pakistan, few know about Iqbal. Very honest, I didn't know before I came.
I can understand.
And people think of other countries in the region where they have traveled, but this... So, and I've been so pleased when I came, you know, about the friendliness and the hospitality area where we can learn a lot from Pakistan, you know. And I wish there was, that people in Europe knew more about that, especially in Germany. I think in other countries there are other historical ties. So actually, you know, I think this is also maybe an appeal to the Pakistani side, and I think actually the Islamabad talks and the recent geopolitical situation has shown also the strength and the richness of Pakistan. And I think this is something that we should promote, you know, we should talk about more. And I think there's a lot, I mean, as with every country in the world, there is so much we can learn from each other. And I wish, you know, I started reading literature here, you know, and I wish people in Europe knew about that.
So there's a scope. I think in the next program, we should do an interaction with your cultural person as well.
Exactly.
So thank you very much for sparing valuable time. We'll definitely talk more. And the bottom line is that these are two countries where there's a scope of positive cooperation, developing together, and all sort of exchanges on a positive side. And I think we must pursue it. And as the counsellor has just said, the Pakistanis should approach more to let the Germans know who they are and how they enjoy life and what are the historic and good all about. So the cultural exposure is them for them as well. So I think that's a very positive thing as well, because if the German counsellor has noted that, I think it obviously that tells that there's a scope for that. And with this we come to the end of the program. Bye for now.